tested and approved, the tools can be set up for manufacturing. Just setting up for manufacturing can be an expensive process. Wooden patterns are needed in order to cast the plastic sections of a toy racing car.
The patterns are generally made out of timber. It's generally the easiest material to shape, and it's generally the quickest to work with. This is the actual mould for the cowl, the front part of the vehicle. Once you produce the timber pattern, the next step is to take a fiberglass mould off the timber pattern, which will be used to sandcast the aluminium tooling, which is used in a rotational moulding machine. These are the actual fiberglass moulds of the spoiler for the back of the vehicle.
In rotation, plastic powder is put in the molds. The molds are then heated up and rotated. The plastic melts and coats the inside of the mold, which is then quickly cooled. Very frequently, the manufacturing process itself affects the design of the product, as the designer explains.
Because the plastic's in a powder form, it takes up a lot more space than when it's actually moulded and melted. So one of the main considerations of design rotational moulding is actually design a product with enough volume in it to put the powdered plastic in.
Single operators, such as craftspeople, are usually aware of customer needs, but they tend to have a rather less structured approach to manufacturing, both to the design process and to the way in which that design is manufactured.
The first one I made, I put these two axles further forward, and it just didn't look like a semi-trailer, it looked like something else. So that's part of my design process, is to just keep on fooling around. Doesn't matter if your finish isn't right, stick bits together, just sit them on top of each other and get the feel of it, and then gradually develop it from there. That's how most of my designs work. Similarly with the train, in particular this train, I think this train probably takes me, say 4 or 5 hours to make a locomotive, but the first one I made took me over a week, and it was working full time. It was just trying certain things out, trying different proportions, shapes, and particularly with the mechanism, making sure that works smoothly, and developing that so that it was sort of foolproof.
With handcrafted work, if there is to be any volume of production, some uniformity of design is necessary. Special so they can be accurately reproduced time after time.
I've made this jig up here so that we get a nice circle around the hole, and so the hole ends up concentric with the shape of the front of the piece. And I put that over the dowel. Just behind here I've got a set screw where I can set the depth that this will go down before it hits a stop. So that piece fits on there, I push that down, rotate it over to a pencil line you see there, which I've worked out is the shape I want, over to there and back to a corresponding pencil mark here.
With an individually crafted toy like a puppet, the toy maker follows the same path of evolving a concept, a design and a method of manufacturing, although sometimes these processes may appear to be going on simultaneously.
The first step for me in actually building a puppet is to form the head. And I usually have a rough idea of a general design style, but actually finding the character is another thing. And I start with a lump of plasticine, and I find that I don't necessarily have a picture of the character consciously in my mind, But as I form it with my hands, I can see it when I'm getting close. And it's almost as if it's somebody that already exists, and I recognize them when I see them.
One very important design feature, especially where children are the users, is safety. Although designed into the product, it also needs to be tested when that product comes off the production line.
The important thing about the oven is that it won't allow you to open the door and put your hand inside the oven when the oven is hot enough to burn you. So that although I can open the door now while the oven's cold inside, as soon as I close the door and turn the oven on so that it's cooking, as soon as it reaches a temperature warm enough to burn you, the door is locked and I can no longer open it.
Could you open it now?
No, it's already locked. So as soon as the red light comes on, the door is locked.
Okay, so we got to the finished product, and our main consideration really was the safety of the product. Hence the moulded in safety instructions so they can't fall off or be removed. Being careful not to provide any finger entrapments between the wheels and the body. Again, being careful in the way the steering is designed that it will lock before any finger entrapment can be caused.
Product safety is carefully regulated by law and monitored by government inspectors, but testing for safety doesn't have to be a highly technical process.
Come on, try and tip it over. No? Try and walk sideways. No, it's not going anywhere.
Design doesn't just happen once. It's an ongoing process. In fact, it's almost certainly necessary to continually re-evaluate the design just to stay ahead of the competition. Customer complaints are an obvious source of feedback, but manufacturers can also go out and do their own surveys. Hornby's Clever Cook oven was extensively redesigned after 1 year on the market.
We've chosen to modify Clever Cook for two main reasons. Firstly, price. Secondly, in response to consumer feedback. And taking price first of all, after a year on the market, we know we've spent another year trying to find parts to put in our oven that we can make for cheaper, that we can buy for a lower cost. The lower the cost that we can make the oven for, at the end of the day, the cheaper it is in the toy shop. Now, we found a way to make the oven work just as well, just as safe, and pass all the same safety regulations at a significantly lower cost.
What we've looked at and developed is a mechanical method of locking the door on the oven, which relies on the heat of the oven locking the door mechanically rather than electronically. It just works in a different way, so it's still as safe,